They say the wind never rests in Hollow Creek, not even when the sun dies behind the ridge. It howls low through the canyon at night, like a ghost trying to remember its name. In the day, it scrapes the paint off the porch posts and lifts red dirt in clouds, so thick you can taste it on your teeth. Clint McRae had stopped noticing the wind. When a man's heart goes quiet, the world gets quieter too. Clint stood alone outside the general store in Red Mesa. Thumb pressed hard against the nail, he drove into the side of the plank wall. The poster flapped once, caught by the breeze. Asterisk ranch help needed. Room and board. No questions asked. Asterisk he stood there a moment longer, watching folks shuffle by. None of them stopped to look. They never did. Word had gotten around about Clint's place. Hollow Creek was dying, same as the man who owned it. The cattle were thin, the creek was dust, and the barn roof had caved in on the last real storm they'd seen. He limped back to his horse and rode home in silence, the prairie stretching all directions, like a canvas someone forgot to finish painting. He didn't expect an answer, not from anyone who could swing a hammer or hold a rope. But it cost nothing to ask, and asking was all he had left. 3 days later, the sky turned yellow-gray. A dust storm built up fast behind the canyon, and Clint was out moving fence posts when he saw something. No, someone. Coming up the trail. Just a silhouette at first, shuffling slow through the churned-up haze. He narrowed his eyes, wiped sweat from his brow with the back of his hand, and squinted against the wind. It was a girl, barefoot. She wore an oversized shirt buttoned to her collarbone, hem torn and flapping around her knees like a rag caught on a nail. Her hair was wild and full of grit, lips chapped, skin burnt raw on the nose and cheeks. In one hand she held a burlap sack. Tied to her belt was a knife with a bone handle, small, but not just for show. Clint dropped the post and walked forward, hand resting near his sidearm but not drawing. You lost. She stopped 10 feet away. Didn't flinch. Saw your sign. You need help. Clint glanced past her, looking for a wagon, a father, a shadow, anything. But it was just her and the wind. I asked for a farmhand, not some half-starved girl with no shoes. I can work, she said. Her voice cracked, but there was steel under the dryness. I got nowhere else to be. Clint let the silence settle between them. He noticed then how her fingers curled, half in a fist, half ready to bolt. She was used to being turned away. Name, he asked. Sadie. Sadie Ray. You got people. Not anymore. He nodded once and turned. Barn's open. Got a cot in the loft. Don't touch the tools unless I tell you. Don't spook the horses. She didn't thank him. Just walked past, slow and stiff, like every step might be her last. Clint figured she'd vanish before sunrise. But the next morning, before the rooster even found its voice, Sadie was already at the well, hauling water in a bucket twice her size. She didn't ask where things were, didn't ask how to do them. She watched, guessed, figured out. By the end of the week, the barn was swept, 2 wild colts had been roped and haltered, and Clint's fence line, which had been half-eaten by wind and time, stood straight and tight from ridge to creek. She didn't speak much, didn't smile either, just worked. And when the day was done, she sat under the old elm beside the house, staring at the stars like she was trying to remember something the sky had once told her. One night, Clint watched her from the porch. The light from the lantern inside flickered just enough to catch her silhouette. He noticed her hands, calloused now, dirt-lined. She was sharpening that little knife of hers with a stone, careful and slow like it meant something. You ever work a ranch before? He asked. She shook her head. Then how the hell do you know what you're doing? My mama taught me, she said. Before everything. He didn't ask what everything was. He knew that kind of tone. He'd used it himself after his wife passed. Words built fences, and some fences weren't meant to be crossed. But Sadie didn't just know work. She had instincts. She sensed when a calf was sick before it limped, knew which colt would bolt and which would fold. She fixed things without being told, fixed him without knowing it. Clint didn't realize it at first, but the ranch stopped creaking so much. The porch boards didn't groan under loneliness like they used to. Meals weren't just eaten, they were shared. By the second week, Clint stopped calling her girl and started saying Sadie. She still never smiled, but there was a light in her eyes sometimes, especially when the horses took to her. They did more than take. They followed her like pups. One evening, she found him limping back from the far paddock. He twisted his bad leg again. She didn't offer pity, just her shoulder. He leaned on it without a word, and they walked to the porch like two people who had been walking together for a long time. That night, after he'd settled in his chair and poured 2 tin cups of coffee, she asked, "Why'd you let me stay?" Clint stared into the fire. Didn't make sense not to. She nodded. Didn't press. Just sat there, sipping slow, eyes heavy but alert. The wind howled outside. A coyote cried in the distance. The barn creaked gently in the dark. Somewhere between that moment and the next, Clint realized Hollow Creek wasn't dying anymore. It was starting over. The fire started in the hills. Not flames, rumors. They rolled down from Red Mesa like embers on the wind. The Galloway gang was coming. They'd taken a ranch 2 valleys over, left nothing but smoking ash and a dead boy hanging from a fence post. Folks said Emmett Galloway was making a sweep south before winter, torching everything that didn't pay him tribute or run fast enough. Clint McCrae listened from the edge of the saloon, cup untouched in his hand, his boot tapping slow against the floorboards. He'd known Emmett once, back before the gang, before the blood. The man had always been a wolf in boots, but now he ran with teeth bared and a taste for killing. That night, Clint saddled his mare and rode hard back to Hollow Creek. When he reached the porch, Sadie was sitting on the steps, cross-legged, her small blade gleaming in the oil lantern's light. She didn't look up when he rode in. "What are you doing?" he asked. She was polishing the knife with a strip of oiled leather, moving slow, with care, like a preacher cleaning a holy relic, keeping it sharp. "You always keep it that sharp?" Her eyes lifted. There was something far older in them than her years. "Mama taught me." Before the Hanjin, Clint didn't ask what that meant. He just nodded and went inside. That night, he sat long at the table, doing the arithmetic of desperation. He had 1 steer left, a few chickens, and less water than he needed for either. Maybe he could sell the mare, ride into the highlands, vanish like so many others had. Maybe Sadie could come. Or maybe she'd be better off staying and fighting. She'd already faced storms worse than anything nature could throw. He never got the chance to decide. The Galloways came 2 days later, just as the sun broke over the canyon. 4 of them rode in first, scouts, faces wrapped in cloth, rifles slung casual, like snakes around their backs. Clint watched them from the window, heart slow but heavy. He told Sadie to stay in the barn, keep low, take the back trail if things went south. She didn't answer. By dusk, they came in full, 8 riders, dust curling behind them. Emmett at the front like the devil riding judgment. His coat was buffalo hide, stained and cracked, and his smile didn't reach his eyes. Clint stood out front with his shotgun leveled low. "Ain't got much to steal, Em." "You got land," Emmett said. "Still water under that creek, maybe. Or maybe I just like watching things burn." The first shot came quick, a flash, a crack, and Clint felt the hammer hit his ribs before he heard the sound. He staggered back, slammed into the hitching post, and dropped. The world twisted. Smoke filled his lungs. Wood snapped. Somewhere, the barn was already catching. Through the blur, he saw Sadie vanish behind the chicken coop. She didn't scream, didn't run toward him, just disappeared like smoke. He tried to call out, but the dust swallowed his voice. Then came the crack of a rifle, sharp, clean, professional. One of the gang dropped off his horse like a sack of meat. Another followed. Head snapped back, blood spraying the dirt. Chaos erupted. Men shouted. Horses bucked. A third man fell, slumped against the fence with a bullet in his neck. Clint rolled onto his side, pain screaming through his chest, and saw her. Sadie. She stood in the hayloft window, legs braced wide, a long-barreled Winchester in her hands, his rifle. He'd hidden it up there years ago, before grief dulled his memory. Now she held it like it belonged to her. She reloaded without looking, fired again. Another man tumbled into the dirt, gurgling. She moved like a shadow, vanishing into the loft, reappearing on the other side, calm as still water. Emmett was crouched behind the trough, gun raised, spitting curses. "You little snake," he roared into the flames. Sadie's voice floated out, cold and dry. You missed, Emmett. His head jerked up. You know. No. I saw you hang. She stepped out fully now, rifle lowered. Firelight licked across her face. Her eyes were full of a cold, practiced fire. You saw a shadow swing. My mama bought me seconds with her own neck. I used them. Emmett stood slowly. Marshall Hollowell's brat. I remember now. Sadie didn't blink. I remember everything. He lifted his pistol. She shot him through the throat. The last rider fled, saddle flapping empty behind him. The barn burned hot and fast, timbers cracking, horses screaming as they broke through the gates and vanished into the desert. Clint crawled to the porch, clutching his side, and sat there, coughing blood and watching the flames rise. Sadie didn't move for a while. She stood in the ashes of her hiding place, the Winchester across her chest, eyes locked on the blaze, like she was watching someone important walk into the fire. Then she turned and walked toward him, not quickly, not slow, just with finality. She knelt beside him. You're hit. I've been worse, he lied, blood wet on his lips. You knew they were coming. I figured. You didn't run. He tried to smile. Didn't seem right, leaving you behind. She looked at him, really looked, and he saw her mouth twitch, half a smile, or maybe the ghost of one. Then I guess we're both fools, she said. Clint nodded once, closed his eyes, and let the pain come. The girl with no shoes had become something else entirely. A storm. And storms didn't run. Clint woke to the scent of smoke and horses, but no gunfire. The light coming through the window was soft, not the fierce orange of fire, but the pale gold of morning. His chest ached deep, ribs bound tight beneath rough cotton wraps. Breathing hurt. Moving was worse. The first thing he saw was her, sitting beside the bed, eyes heavy but awake, sharpening that same small knife like always. She paused when he stirred, then laid the blade down gently. You're not dead, she said, almost like it disappointed her. He grunted, the sound rough and wet. Takes more than a bullet to stop a McCrae. She didn't smile, but she leaned back in the chair, shoulders dropping like a weight had lifted. You were out 3 days. He looked around. The cabin was intact. The old stone walls had held. Through the open window, he could hear cattle lowing. Alive. He blinked slowly. The ranch. Still standing, she said. Mostly. She paused. Barn's gone. And the gang. Gone too. He closed his eyes for a moment, breathed in the dust and sage. You did all this. She said nothing. Who the hell are you? He asked, not angry, just needing to know. She looked at the floor, then back at him. Sadie Ray Hollowell. My father was Marshall Elijah Hollowell. Galloway slit his throat in front of the courthouse steps in Arkham Ridge. My mother, she tried to fight back. They hung her. Thought they got me, too. They didn't. He watched her carefully. You been running ever since. Not running, she said. Waiting. I followed them for 2 years. Got close more than once. But they never stopped moving. She looked toward the window. Then I saw your sign. Figured I'd earn a roof until I saw which way the dust blew. You used this place as bait. Her eyes met his without flinching. At first. He nodded slowly, his chest rising with effort. You could have left when you heard they were coming. I'd already stayed too long. He studied her, tall now, sun-darkened and solid from weeks of work. No longer a girl, not just because of what she'd done, but because of what she carried. He recognized that weight. It mirrored his own. I don't have much left, he said. But if you want it, this land's yours too. Not as a hand. As kin. She didn't cry. Sadie Ray didn't cry. But she nodded once. That was enough. From that day forward, she worked the land like it had always belonged to her. She planted seeds in scorched soil and patched what she couldn't replace. The wind still howled through Hollow Creek, but now it passed over something rooted. And they say, a girl with no shoes once walked into Hollow Creek and saved a dying ranch. Some say she was born under a blood moon. Others say she was the law's last hope. But Clint McCrae would just say she stayed. And that made all the difference.